Heartwarming twist, when a mistaken text to the CEO revealed an incredible baby announcement. Life in bustling suburbia was anything but kind to 32-year-old Sarah. Juggling 2 jobs at the local diner and a grocery store, she was a whirlwind of coffee spills and shopping carts. Every day was a new challenge as the weight of single motherhood rested heavy on her shoulders. But nothing prepared her for the day she'd mistakenly text Tom, the towering figure of a tech CEO who seemed like a modern-day hero, full of success but oblivious to the struggles of everyday life. "Hey I just found out I'm pregnant," she typed, her heart racing with mixed emotions, pouring out her fears and hopes. A mere moment's slip turned into a monumental blunder when she hit send, sending her vulnerable truth flying toward the wrong person. Tom, relaxing in his sleek office, was taken aback. The raw honesty of the message struck a chord deep within him. He remembered nights spent fighting for every penny, understanding Sarah's struggle in a way few could. The tenderness of her situation ignited something he hadn't felt in years, a connection driven by empathy. As days passed, Sarah felt weighed down. The harder she worked, the further away her dreams seemed. The thought of bringing a child into her already chaotic life filled her with dread. Shame coursed through her as bills piled up, and the proud walls of her family home began to feel more like a prison. Yet, against the odds, when Tom reached out, offering her a chance to share her story at a charity gala for single parents, it fueled a flicker of hope. But the excitement turned into worry as her brother Jake, fiercely protective and traditional, threw cold water on her ambitions. "You want to lay your life bare for them? Every word, every struggle? What's next, a reality show?" It broke her heart. Their family bond, once supportive, now felt thorny. As they gathered around the dinner table, tension surged. Pride battled with the possibility of community support, creating rifts she barely knew how to mend. Before she could wrap her head around the gala, the universe delivered another blow, a setback that left her reeling. Lost job hours loomed like shadows, and the world seemed to narrow down on her. Tears filled her eyes as she wrestled with the thought that the relentless judgment of others would drown her before she could even begin to fight for her child. Just when despair gripped her tightest, Tom stepped in with an unexpected kindness, revealing that he too faced challenges. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the gala approached, dread clung closer. Standing in front of a room full of people, her story about to spill from her lips, she felt suffocated. Would they see her struggle as a badge of honor or merely a mark of shame? Tom, noticing her wavering resolve, began to share his own story of hardship and triumph, weaving their worlds together. Hope surged, yet Sarah's heart trembled at the thought of revealing her truth. With the crowd holding their breath, would she find the strength to rise? Or would the burden of her fears keep her rooted in doubt? The moment came quicker than Sarah had anticipated. The lights dimmed and a hush fell over the room. All eyes turned toward her, and her stomach twisted in knots. She could hear her heartbeat thumping in her ears as Tom stepped slightly back, giving her the stage. "You got this," he whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. His presence steadied her, but she was still convinced that her voice would falter. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. The room, once filled with chatter and laughter, was now heavy with expectation. She glanced at the sea of faces, the aspiring parents, the hopeful supporters, each reflecting a myriad of stories. It was a shared struggle, yet hers felt so raw and distinct. "Hello everyone," Sarah began, her voice wavering slightly. She forced herself to meet their eyes, trying to channel a mixture of fear and courage. "I didn't plan to be here tonight." The honesty was freeing, and she could feel the tension in her chest start to ease. Her story tumbled out, a wave crashing onto the shore. She told them about her long days working at the diner and grocery store, the sleepless nights spent worrying about bills, and the weight of loneliness crushing her hopes. Her vulnerability laid bare before them felt daunting, yet exhilarating. Few heads nodded in understanding. A couple of people even wiped away tears. It struck her that they all likely faced their own struggles, that the facade of perfect lives often masked a landscape of pain. This was a moment of connection, of shared humanity. Then there's this unexpected twist. She hesitated, glancing at Tom. A text meant for a friend went to someone I never thought would care, Tom. And now, here I stand. The audience stirred, leaning in, intrigued. I received an invitation to speak at a charity gala, not because of any accolades but simply because I needed help and I think it's time we helped each other. Applause erupted as her words hung in the air, and for an instant, she basked in the warmth of acceptance. But as her heart swelled with pride, a familiar shadow from her past crept back in Jake's harsh words echoing in her mind. She felt a sting of doubt. Would he still think she was a spectacle? After the applause faded, Tom stepped forward again, taking her hand. Sarah's story is one of resilience. I know there are people in this room who understand what it means to fight. Every one of you has the power to create change, for yourself and for others. His voice filled the space with authority and resolve, igniting a fire that shot through the crowd. But as Sarah looked out, she saw a familiar face at the back. It was Jake, his expression unreadable. That small flicker of doubt returned, igniting a battle within her. Would he understand? Would he have her back? She wanted to believe they could bridge the divide, but memories of their recent argument clouded her mind. As whispers swirled around her, expressions of awe and disbelief carved a path of connection among the attendees. Sarah felt the room shift with energy, but her focus remained fixed on her brother. The silence stretched, holding the promise of something deeper. With Tom beside her, she felt supported, yet the next step seemed monumental. Sarah took a deep breath, preparing to face the crowd again, but the sound of her phone buzzing in her pocket shattered her concentration. She pulled it out, her heart racing anew. It was a message from Jake. I didn't know you felt this way. Can we talk later? A fresh wave of hope washed over her. Maybe, just maybe, this night could change everything. Would she muster the courage to embrace not only her truth but also reach across the rift in her family? As the crowd began to clap again, she felt a spark ignite within her, ready to face the challenges ahead, but part of her whispered, was this truly the beginning or just the end of the first chapter? Sarah stood there, her heart racing as the applause filled the room. The sound was intoxicating, yet the swirling thoughts in her mind anchored her down. How could she express this newfound hope and the complexity of her emotions to Jake? Her brother had always been tough on her, his love cloaked in sharp words and tough love. Would he see her courage, or would he only see the moments of weakness she had just shared? Are we ready to offer our support? Tom's voice boomed, breaking her from her thoughts. The crowd's cheers turned into a symphony of encouragement and echo that brought with it a surge of energy. She couldn't help but smile at the connections blossoming around her. People were reaching out to one another, whispering encouragement, offering small gestures of kindness. Yet, even amidst the warmth, Jake's face lingered at the back of her mind, its cool shadow firm and unyielding. Sarah, do you want to take a moment? Tom offered, sensing her hesitation. The way he looked at her, those kind eyes filled with understanding, brought a soothing balm to her nerves. Yeah, just a minute, she replied, feeling the need to ground herself before addressing the crowd again. She took her phone and sent a quick reply to Jake, sure, when and where? The waiting felt eternal. The thought of facing him after all that had happened weighed heavily on her. Let's keep pushing forward. Who here has experienced a moment when reaching out changed everything? Tom's voice rang out again, igniting a discussion amongst the crowd. Stories began to flow like a river, and Sarah couldn't help but be swept away by their courage. It was contagious. Vulnerability turned into strength. As she glanced around, she caught sight of a woman a few rows ahead, tears glistening in her eyes. When she asked if she could share her story, another ripple of connection surged through the audience. The woman spoke of loss, a child, a dream crushed, and the community that rallied to pull her through. None of us are alone, Sarah thought, her heart swelling. Words took on a life of their own. The more stories shared, the more Sarah realized she wasn't just speaking for herself, she was speaking for all of them. After each tale, the crowd responded with applause, shared laughter, and sometimes silence that reverberated with understanding. Together, they were painting a tapestry of shared resilience, and in that moment, Sarah felt accepted not for perfection, but for her messy, beautiful truth. Then her phone buzzed again, breaking the magic of the moment. It was a new message from Jake. "Can we meet in 5 at the cafe around the corner?" Her heart raced not just from excitement but from fear. What would he say? Would he really finally understand her, or was this merely another chance for him to shut her down? She glanced at Tom, who gave her an encouraging nod, and then looked back at the crowd. It was time for her to take control not just of her story, but of her family ties. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, the crowd falling silent once more. "I want to thank you all. Tonight has reminded me that in our darkest times, we find strength together." Before she could lose her nerve, she blurted out, "I have to go now, but this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something beautiful." With that, she dashed off stage, the applause fading behind her as she fought her way through the crowd. The weight of her phone felt heavy in her pocket, a constant reminder of the conversation that awaited her. Sarah burst through the cafe door, seeking Jake's familiar face. Her heart pounded. She needed to be brave. The stakes had never felt higher. But the question lingered in her mind: could this conversation bring healing, or would it become another chapter of miscommunication and hurt? As she settled in, her eyes searched the room, waiting for him to arrive. Would she find understanding, or just more questions? The door swung open, and Sarah's breath caught for a moment. She glanced at each figure that entered, searching intently for Jake. The cafe buzzed with chatter, baristas calling out orders, the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. But for Sarah, everything faded into a blur. The only thing that mattered was the moment she had been dreading and longing for. Finally, she spotted him. Jake strode in, a familiar mix of intensity and apprehension on his face. He wore his usual leather jacket, rugged jeans, but there was something different in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that she hadn't noticed before. Her heart ached at the sight, a small glimmer of hope igniting inside her. "Hey," he said when their eyes locked, his voice steady but softer than she remembered. "Hi," she replied, motioning for him to join her at a small table in the corner. The space was cozy, warm lighting bathing them in a golden hue. But the warmth didn't reach the pit of her stomach, where nerves twisted uncomfortably. "I got your message," he said, sitting down. "I wasn't sure if you would come." She met his gaze, her voice faltering slightly. "I didn't know if I could either." Silence enveloped them, heavy and palpable, the weight of unspoken words thick in the air. Sarah studied his features, the signature furrow in his brow, the way he always looked just a bit worn, like the world had taken its toll. "Sarah," Jake started, then stopped. He rubbed the back of his neck, a telltale sign he was struggling. "I saw your presentation. It was powerful." His compliment sent warmth flooding through her, yet doubt crept back in. "Did you really mean it? Did you feel what I was trying to say?" He exhaled sharply, eyes flickering with emotion. "Look, I've been hard on you. I know that. But what you shared, it made me realize." His voice caught, the weight of his usual bravado slipping away. "I've got my own stuff I've been running from. I keep thinking if I punch hard enough, it'll all just disappear, you know?" For the first time, she glimpsed the cracks in his armor. It hit her like a wave. "I'd never thought of it that way. I just thought you wanted to toughen me up, but maybe we're both just scared." Jake searched her eyes, and for a brief moment, the world outside disappeared. "Yeah, maybe we are." Just before he could finish, the cafe door swung open again. In walked a couple, laughing, and a wave of joy followed them. They strolled towards the counter, hand in hand, the kind of warmth that melted her heart and made her forget for a moment the heaviness lingering between her and Jake. "Look at that," Jake murmured, his voice tinged with envy and longing. "That kind of connection. I always wanted to have that." Her eyes widened, understanding flooding in. "You mean like us? Or something different? Something different, he said, and she could see the fight in him. But we have our own connection, don't we? Desperation filled the space where tension had been moments before. I want to fix this, Jake, she breathed. Me too. I just don't know how, he admitted. Can we try? It felt like a leap into the unknown. But she was willing. He nodded slowly, vulnerability in his eyes. Yeah, I do like that. They both reached for each other's hands across the table, a tentative bridge to healing. And in that singular moment, hope blossomed brighter than the fears that had once chained them. But just as they began to embrace this newfound understanding, a loud crash echoed from the cafe's entrance. A delivery man had stumbled, sending boxes toppling to the floor. Laughter erupted, quickly followed by concerned voices, and Sarah's heart raced again. What was that about? Jake broke their gaze, anxiety creeping back into the moment. As they turned toward the commotion, a box slid open to reveal baby clothes and colorful onesies tumbling out. Wait, what? Sarah muttered, her heart skipping. The couple from earlier let out a joyful shriek, the woman's hand flying to her mouth. It seemed they had just received the news they were expecting. Sarah's eyes darted back to Jake, a million questions bubbling to the surface. Was this moment a sign for them? The dance of joy and fear swirled in Sarah's heart. Could this be about more than just them? With a tentative smile, she whispered, Jake, what if we embraced the unexpected? And as they both watched the unfolding scenes of joy, a new understanding began to dawn, one that could lead their stories in an entirely new direction. Jake's eyes widened as he took in the scene unfolding in front of him. The laughter of the couple was infectious, their joy palpable. It seemed to fill the cafe, wrapping around Sarah and Jake like a warm blanket. The momentary chaos drew attention, but for Sarah, it felt layered with meaning. What if we embraced the unexpected? She repeated, this time with more conviction, her voice barely a whisper. Jake turned his gaze back to her, a flicker of uncertainty still dancing behind his eyes. You really think we can? After everything? Why not? Maybe it's a sign. Maybe we're supposed to take a leap, too, she said, the thought leaping from her heart to her lips without hesitation. Her pulse quickened as she looked at him, daring him to see beyond the walls they had built. What does that even mean for us? He asked, furrowing his brow. It was clear he was grappling with the possibilities, the fear of the unknown clashing against the warmth of hope. It could mean anything. Or everything, she replied, taking a deep breath. We've spent so much time trying to figure each other out while hanging on to the past. Maybe it's time to start fresh, to dream again. Her heart raced as she spoke louder, feeling the words lift her spirit. Imagine what we could do together. The future doesn't have to be defined by our old wounds. Jake licked his lips, thinking. The way his intense gaze softened hinted at the battle inside him. As if unlocking the door to another world, she saw a spark just beyond his defenses. You're right. The past has been heavy. What if we just let that go? Exactly. Sarah felt the excitement bubble within her. We could be like them. Positive, open to whatever is next. We could make decisions based on what we want, not just what we fear. Just then, the couple let out another cheer, holding the baby close like treasure. It was infectious, a moment that couldn't be bottled up. Laughter swirled, mingling with the sounds of the cafe, brightening the space even more. But amid the warmth, a chilling flicker of doubt grazed Sarah's heart. Jake, what if this is just one big misstep? What if we try and get hurt again? Jake broke her gaze, focusing on the couple now talking animatedly about names and nursery designs. He exhaled deeply, a mix of frustration and hesitation etched across his face. We could, but I don't want to risk losing what we have. What if we can't make it work? Then we'll just have to figure that out together, she replied, leaning closer, her voice dropping to a softer tone. I'm starting to feel like we're stronger than we think. Like we can actually support each other. That struck a chord with him. She watched as he wrestled with his thoughts, the swirl of emotions tearing through him. Could they really dive into this uncertain future together? I want that too, Sarah, he whispered, but doubt still lingered in his eyes. Just tell me that we won't fall apart if it gets hard. That we'll find a way through. Together, she promised, squeezing his hands tighter. No matter what comes next. A moment passed, during which the barista called out another name for an order, laughter from the couple intertwined with the chatter in the cafe. The chaos around them began to settle, the tension ease. Then, as if summoned by the universe, a gentle thought slipped out. Maybe we could even start with a puppy. She laughed lightly, trying to ease the heaviness lurking in his expression. Are you serious? He chuckled back, a fragile smile breaking through. A puppy? Why not? It's a small commitment. And if we can handle a puppy, maybe we can handle a little more. His laughter mingled with hers, the air between them shifting from trepidation to an easy banter. But even as they laughed, the gravity of their conversation lingered. Hopeful and RAW.as they continued to engage in light-hearted talk about potential puppy names and breeds. A buzz filled Sarah's mind with a new weight. Could embracing the unexpected truly lead them down a path of transformation and growth? The energy began to rise, flickers of undeniable excitement coursing through her. Yet her heart raced with uncertainty at the thought spiraling in her mind. As she considered the steps forward, another thought pierced through. In the midst of their laughter, she wondered, what if this was just the beginning of the unexpected? The thought clenched at her insides, weighty and hopeful, casting a shadow of doubt into the light of possibility. Would they be brave enough to embrace whatever came next, or would they retreat back into safety? And as deep in thought, she noticed Jake's expression hollow out again, fading from joy back into reflection. A silence stretched between them. The energy swelled, leaving her craving a deeper understanding of what lay ahead. Perhaps the next twist in their story was waiting just around the corner, poised to change everything once again. The laughter continued, but Sarah felt the air shift back. Uncertainty slipped in like a shadow, darting between the warmth of their conversation. She took a deep breath, trying to push aside the nagging doubt that lingered in her mind. Okay, so a puppy. What would we name it? Jake asked, his tone light, but Sarah could sense the tension beneath. He was with her, but just barely. How about Chance? She suggested, striking a playful tone. You know, for new beginnings? Jake raised an eyebrow, a smile twitching at the corners of his mouth. Like the chance we're taking? Exactly. She leaned closer, her excitement bubbling up again. Or maybe something comical, like Biscuit. Dogs should be fun, right? For a moment, the lightness returned, and they tossed around names. They laughed, the conversation flowing naturally, almost as if the heavier topics had melted away. But Sarah noticed that even with the laughter, Jake's gaze was still darting around the cafe. A hint of restlessness lingered in his posture. Hey, what if we did get a puppy? Sarah ventured, gauging his response. It would be a small step. One we can manage. He hesitated, brow furrowed. Sure, but it's still a commitment. We don't even know how our relationship will develop. The tension crackled again, and Sarah felt her heart sink. But isn't that the point? It's about moving forward, right? Moving forward into the unknown, he replied quietly. That's scary. Silence stretched, the noise of the cafe fading into the background. In its place, Sarah felt the gravity of their conversation weigh down on her, fragile and tense. Maybe we could take baby steps, she suggested, her tone softer now. How about we just start with one outing this weekend? Something fun. Let us see how we feel together. His eyes brightened at the prospect. Like a date? Just us? Yes. Maybe we could go to that new park by the river. Bring a picnic, just relax and talk. He nodded, a smile returning as he considered it. I like that. No pressure, just us. After a moment, Sarah hesitated. But Jake, if we're going to do this, we need to promise to be honest about what we feel, even if it gets tough. He hesitated, but his expression softened. I can agree to that. No hiding, no pretending exactly, she replied, feeling warmth flood through her again. Whatever comes, we face it together. Just as they were wrapping their heads around this new possibility, Sarah's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, glancing at a message from her sister, Sarah's breath catching as she read it. A video was attached. "Sarah? You alright?" Jake's voice penetrated her fog as he leaned closer, curious about her sudden shift. Before she replied, she clicked on the message. A joyful giggle erupted from her phone, followed by the sweetest sight, her sister holding up a tiny baby onesie with Big Brother printed on it. Sarah's mouth fell open, tears pricking at her eyes. "Oh my God, they're having a baby." Jake's brow knitted in confusion, his body language suddenly tense. "What? They're announcing they're having a baby. It's amazing." Her voice filled with a mix of joy and disbelief. She couldn't control the smile on her face, but in an instant, Jake's expression changed. The uncertainty clouded his eyes again. "A baby? That changes everything, doesn't it?" "What do you mean?" Her heartbeat quickened, sensing the shift in him. He looked pensive, as if taking in everything. "I guess it shows how fragile life is, huh? How sometimes we can't predict what's in store." Sarah crossed her arms, the unexpected weight of his words settling in. "Are you saying we shouldn't go forward? Just because they're starting a family?" I don't know," he murmured, his gaze drifting again. "It's just a lot caught in the momentum of the moment." Sarah felt her excitement wobbling at the edges. As more questions arose in her mind, she tried to steady herself. Could this winning moment turn dire or spark something unexpected between them? The cafe exploded again into commotion as more orders were called, and the couple beside them erupted into laughter once more. "Maybe the baby announcement was a sign for us too," she suggested, a small glimmer of hope returning. "Embracing the unknown, start exploring new possibilities." Jake's expression softened, but the uncertainty lingered. "Yeah, or maybe it's a reminder we're not as ready as we think." Heart racing, Sarah felt the urge to pull him back. "But what if we are? What if this is truly just the beginning?" As she locked her gaze on him, a fear coiled in her chest. What did this unexpected turn mean for not just them, but the emerging new life that had just been revealed? And as they paused, the laughter from the couple washed over them again. She wondered, could they handle the waves of change that had just crashed into their lives? Or would they be swept away by the tide of uncertainty? Sarah's heart raced as she waited for Jake's response. The cafe buzzed around them, but here, in their small corner, time seemed to stand still. She watched him with a mix of hope and anxiety, longing for the spark that sparked magic between them. But the shadow of doubt loomed larger by the second. "Jake," she started, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. "We're both scared. That's okay. But maybe we can take this as a chance to figure out what we want together." He turned his head, letting out a shaky breath. "I just don't want to leap into something I'm not ready for. It feels insane to even think about right now." "But isn't that life?" she countered. "It's always crazy. We can't plan everything. Look at your sister, she didn't plan for this baby. But now it's happening, and they're going to embrace it." Jake's jaw clenched, and she noticed the subtle twitch of his fingers on the table. "It's different. They're a family. We can be a family too," she rushed to say, her voice catching, heart pounding. "It just looks different for us right now." In that moment, a little voice inside her begged for him to see the truth that their connection was something beautiful, something worth exploring. What if this unexpected news deepened their bond? Jake raked a hand through his hair, the movement mimicking his inner turmoil. "Sarah," he said carefully, what if we're not meant to do this? What if we don't fit into that future?" The words struck her like a strike of lightning, cold and startling. Do you really think that?" "No," he sighed, searching her eyes. "But I'm scared. I don't want to ruin what we have." Tears sprang to her eyes. "I don't want to ruin it either. But I don't want to just sit here and wonder what could have been if we don't try." Suddenly, a couple at the next table erupted into laughter, causing Jake to flinch slightly. Sarah's heart tightened. They were just a few feet away from a family experiencing pure joy. But with them? A mixture of hope and fear. What if we just take it slow? She suggested, her voice softening. We can navigate this together. Let us plan the picnic and see how we feel. If it gets overwhelming, we can change course. Jake looked at her, the tension in his body slowly easing. Okay. A cautious smile slid onto his face. No pressure, right? Just a simple outing? Exactly. Just you, me, and a beautiful sunset over the river. His chuckle broke through her worry. And maybe a biscuit of a puppy to follow afterward? They both laughed, the sound cutting through the heaviness that lingered. But in Sarah's heart, that lingering uncertainty still loomed. Could they actually handle this? Before she could sink deeper into her thoughts, Jake's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, frowning slightly. I should probably check this. Work stuff. His face was momentarily distracted, and Sarah felt her stomach flip. Was that new barrier going back up? Yeah, of course, she murmured, trying to keep her disappointment at bay. Just give me a second, he said, lowering his voice, and she couldn't help but notice how his laughter had dimmed again. As Jake read the message, his brow furrowed deeper. Hold on, he said softly. This is the clarity of his voice shattered the silence, tinged with urgency. Sarah leaned in, curiosity bubbling as he read aloud. Oh man, this could change everything, but it's not what I expected. Change everything? She echoed, her heart picking up once more in anticipation. Jake's eyes widened, and Sarah's breath caught. What in the world could be so important? Sarah, he said, his voice heavy, you might want to see this. The pressure in the air shifted again, pulling at the seams of her heart. What would come next for them? Would this be another moment of uncertainty, or would it lead to something unexpected that could mend their doubts? As she leaned closer, a rush of apprehension coursed through her. In that instant, she realized that perhaps the most unexpected twists in life were about to be unveiled, and she sensed they could be facing more than just their future. What could this moment mean for the path ahead? How would they navigate the waters of this new revelation together? Jake's face was a study of disbelief and intrigue as he handed the phone to Sarah, his fingers trembling slightly. All she could think about was that they had taken a leap together, only for it to be interrupted by this unforeseen development. What is it? She asked, her voice barely making it past the lump in her throat. She stared at the screen, but the text looked like a jumble of corporate speak mixed with urgency. You're scaring me, Jake. Just look, he urged, and she took the phone, glancing at the message. Hey, can't believe you're having a baby, was the first line, punctuated by a barrage of exclamation marks. Confusion washed over her. It wasn't directed at Jake, but it certainly landed in his lap. The sender, someone from his office. Rachel, the HR director, had mistakenly texted Jake instead of her best friend, Jessica, who was also pregnant. Wait, what? Sarah read further, her eyebrows knitting together. She thinks Jessica is having a baby? As she pronounced the words, it slowly dawned on her that this mistake could lead to something completely unexpected. But is this real? Jake's brow furrowed deeper, and he nodded, his mind racing through the implications. It seems like people need to be careful when they're hitting send. Could this change things for them, for us? Sarah's heart began to race again, but this time with anticipation. I mean, if Jess is really pregnant, it's going to shift so much. Families grow, and who knows how that might impact us. Jake took a deep breath, his expression slowly morphing from shock to thoughtfulness. Yeah. I hadn't considered that. If they're starting a family, it could feel like we've got some big shoes to fill. But it can also show us what we want. She exclaimed, excitement bubbling inside her. Look, just because someone else is having a baby doesn't mean we have to follow that exact path, right? But it might spark something inside both of us. Jake nodded, still staring at the phone, deep in thought. You might be right. Do you think we could consider this moment a light, like it's guiding us? She pushed, her voice softening. Maybe we need to lean into this change rather than shy away from it. Maybe it isn't all bad. His words, once filled with fear, were now laced with hope. Sarah felt her heart bloom a little, pushing through the weight of their earlier conversation. She took a moment, gazing into his eyes, seeking the reassurance they both needed to feel, but just before the relief could settle in fully, Jake's phone buzzed again, this time with a call from his mom. He glanced at Sarah, the tension creeping back into his shoulders. "I should answer this," he said, fumbling the phone nervously. "Take your time," she said, forcing a supportive smile, but a knot began to tighten in her stomach. Her heart flipped in fear of what the call would bring, worried it might unravel the blue sky they were just beginning to see. Shifting in her seat, Sarah watched as he placed the call on speaker, mentally preparing herself for the looming shadow of reality. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice steady but lacking its earlier laughter. "Jake. Oh my gosh, did you hear? Jessica's going to be a mom." The excitement in his mother's voice was unmistakable. "This changes everything for our family. I just had to tell someone." With that simple statement, the door swung wide open. Sarah could almost feel her chest constrict with a mix of joy for Jessica but also the weight of decisions looming over Jake and her. They were suddenly at a crossroads, with possibilities branching out like an untamed road ahead. Jake's fingers tapped restlessly against the table as his mom chatted about baby names and shower plans, but in that moment, all Sarah could think was, would this unexpected news force them to confront their own future even sooner than they planned? As the call continued, she couldn't shake the feeling that their lives were shifting under them, spiraling into a whirlwind of excitement and fear. "Jake, what do we do now?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the excitement on the other end of the line. His gaze turned serious, and for the first time, their future felt like it was teetering on a knife's edge. The choices they would make in the wake of this revelation could push them together or pull them apart. What revelation awaited them in this seismic shift? Would they rise to the occasion, or would the changes fracture their connection forever? Jake's eyes widened as he listened to his mom babble on, each word a reminder of how swiftly life could change. He could hear the muffled sounds of celebrations through the phone, the excitement palpable even from a distance. Sarah sat in tense silence, her heart drumming in her chest, each beat echoing her indecision. "Mom, can we talk about this later?" Jake finally interjected, trying to regain control of the whirlwind conversation. From the corner of his eye, he caught Sarah's gaze, her expression a mix of dread and hope. What did this mean for them? "Oh, sweetheart. I just can't believe it. Jessica and Luke are going to be parents," his mom exclaimed, the joy radiating through the line, and Jake couldn't help but feel the warmth of it against the chill of uncertainty spiraling in the corner of his mind. "Right, that's great," he said, though the words felt hollow. More than anything, he wanted to put his thoughts into words that mattered, but as the phone buzzed and hummed with Jessica's newfound joy, he felt immense pressure weighing on them. When he finally ended the call, the silence that filled the room seemed deafening. He put the phone down, only to find Sarah staring at him, searching for reassurance. "This is huge," she said softly, drawing in a breath. "For them. But what about us?" The question hung in the air. He could feel the weight of it, heavy and real. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice trailing off. "It makes me wonder if we should be moving forward too." "But how?" Sarah's tone held an urgency, she looked anxious yet hopeful. "Are we even ready for that?" Jake kicked his mind into high gear, trying to navigate through the haze of emotions. "Maybe it's time we figure that out. Together." The thought sent a small surge of adrenaline through him. He reached for Sarah's hand, their fingers entwining instinctively. "But not just because they are." "That's exactly it," she replied, squeezing his hand tightly. "We can't let someone else's life dictate ours." Jake could see her resolve solidifying in her eyes. Maybe this was a moment, an awakening they needed. A gentle, guiding nudge into the ambiguity of the future they thought they had time to explore. "What if we took a weekend trip?" he suggested, his heart beating a little faster as inspiration struck. Somewhere we can think without distractions. We can really talk about what we want. Sarah's brow lifted, and for a second, hope flickered across her face. I love that idea. Somewhere quiet, she said, enthusiasm bubbling in her voice. Just us. So, it's settled then? He murmured, summoning the courage within him. Yeah, she bit her lip, excitement dancing in her eyes. Let us do it. As they both smiled, a warmth spread through Jake. He felt a budding sense of possibility. Just then, Jake's phone buzzed again, jolting them both. He groaned internally, glancing at the screen. It was another message from Rachel. Ugh, now what? He said, shifting his weight. He hesitated to open it, feeling the moment slip. Open it, Sarah encouraged, her curiosity piquing. Jake took a breath, feeling the weight of her gaze and the swell of nervous energy in the air. He tapped the screen, and as the message revealed itself, his excitement quickly faded into confusion. Sarah, it's not just about Jessica, he murmured. I think we need to take another look at everything. Why? What does it say? She pressed, urgent tension in her voice. As the words sunk in, understanding washed over them, lighting a spark of anticipation for what lay ahead. But the gravity of the message hinted at more questions than answers. What other surprises hid in the shadows? And could they handle what the universe had in store? Sarah and Jake sat in the cafe, the weight of the world pressing down on them. The laughter and chatter around them felt distant, as if they were in a bubble, sealed off from the joyous chaos of life swirling just outside their small corner booth. They had made a promise, but now uncertainty stretched between them like a vast chasm. Okay, what's next? Sarah finally asked, breaking the silence. Her heart was racing. She needed to know if Jake was ready to leap into the unknown with her. I don't know, Jake admitted, running a hand through his hair. The worry etched on his face mirrored the turmoil inside her own heart. This whole announcement about Jessica has thrown me for a loop. My past fears are back, telling me to hold back. Sarah felt frustration bubble just beneath her calm. But you can't let fear dictate your life. Don't you see? This could be the spark we need. We can be whatever we want. The hope in her voice trembled, fighting against his doubt. I know, I want to, he said, a hint of longing in his eyes. But usually, these things don't unfold the way we want them to. What if I mess up again? Taking a deep breath, Sarah leaned closer, their fingers tingling from the warmth of their connection. You have to trust this moment. We're not just choosing to be together because someone else is having a baby. It's deeper than that. His gaze softened, and she could see recognition dawn in his eyes. I want to trust you, to trust us. It's just hard to break old patterns. With newfound determination, Sarah squeezed his hand tightly. Then let us create new patterns together. We can have our own story. With highs and lows. Let us embrace this chance. Jake's smile broke through the clouds hanging over them. You're right. Every moment in life is a chance, isn't it? To start fresh even if we fall. The warmth spreading between them signaled the first rays of hope piercing through their doubts. As they discussed weekend trip plans, laughter spilled between them, knitting back together the frayed edges of their bond. Ideas flowed easily, and as they shared dreams, Sarah began to feel lighter. The chance of stepping into the future together, rather than being shackled by the past, felt exhilarating. Then, as if the universe was listening, Jake's phone buzzed again. Really? He murmured with a mix of exasperation and curiosity. This time, it was Rachel once more. What does it say? Sarah asked, anticipation thrumming in her chest. Jake frowned at the screen, eyes widening with surprise. It says there's an upcoming community event for single parents that they're organizing. They want us both to speak together. Sarah's breath caught. What? Together? He nodded slowly, and she could see the gears starting to turn in his mind. It could be a good chance to share our story. To show how we're fighting for what we want. Joy surged within her as the weight of their journey began to crystallize before them. "Jake, this is perfect. It's our moment to inspire others, just like you inspired me through your support." A spark flickered in his eyes as a smile spread across his face. Maybe this is what we needed. A real chance to show that vulnerability is strength. We could share that we're both scared, but we're willing to go for it anyway. "Yes." Sarah beamed. "Embracing the unknown together. It'll pull us closer. And we'll bring our experiences to life." For the first time, the weight on her chest began to lift. Their journey had been tough, marred by misunderstandings and fears, but this was a beautiful beginning. Jake looked at her, a new light in his eyes. "You really think we can do this?" His voice was steady, full of a new resolve. "Absolutely. We're stronger together," Sarah replied confidently. As they both spoke about their thoughts and feelings, Sarah's heart soared. A gentle breeze swept through the cafe, rustling their napkins and drawing laughter from nearby tables. Life, in all its chaotic glory, reminded them of the beauty unfolding around them. It was in the midst of mundane life that they found the extraordinary, the courage to face the unknown and embrace possibility. Jake squeezed her hand, grounding her heart. "Let us write our story," he said, the conviction in his voice making her pulse quicken. "Together, one step at a time." Together they shared a laugh, this moment of connection blooming between them. As the sun began to set outside the cafe's windows, casting warm golden rays onto the table, Sarah felt a peaceful acceptance settle within her. They had transformed doubt into hope, fear into courage, and uncertainty into possibility. Hand in hand, they both realized, this was just the beginning of their journey. The twists and turns ahead would shape them, but the beauty in their newfound connection was something to hold tight to. The world on outside, full of chaos and laughter, but in that moment, time stood still. They leaned closer, hearts ignited by a shared vision, ready to step into their future without hesitation, and as they walked out of the cafe, the weight of the past began to lift, paving the way for their new story, one filled with love, growth, and embracing the unexpected. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and spread the love. Don't wait not even one more second to share.